This is the remains of the former country house at Chełmno, which became the Nazi death camp on the 8th of December 1941. This is the front of the building, though for the victims it was the back of the building, because the victims were brought in from the back, from the side of the village. When this house was built in the second half of the 19th century, it was built by a gentleman who received the land and for service to the state, Russian state as it was then, and he built it with a view down here, which was towards the Ner River. He's now would have had a motorway view, because the motorway was built there in 2004, 2005 and opened in 2006. Now, the prisoners, when they came here, the first ones were taken from the nearby town of Koło, and they were brought here to work. Now, Koło, the Judenrat was ordered to provide people to work. They were brought here, and their work consisted in destroying the bodies of the murdered, the victims. They were housed here in this place here underground initially, and in small rooms, as you can see here, which unheated in December 1941 must have been and was terribly cold. We know it was terribly cold because we have the account of one person who managed to escape from the camp in January 1942. And what is so good about his account is that how he described this account was completely borne out by the archaeological evidence, which did not come to light until 2005. Prisoners were kept here, and they were taken to the forest, which is about 3-4 kilometers to the north, where the bodies were buried. After April 1942, they were burnt there. Now, how the prisoners were housed after this, we don't really know. We know from his account, as he survived until end of April, beginning of May 1942, when he was captured in Zamość and taken to Bełżec and murdered there. Probably. We don't know if he was murdered or not, but nothing was ever heard of him again after he was rounded up. He did also, however, he wrote a letter from Zamość to Warsaw warning that Bełżec there was also people being murdered there by gas. Prisoners themselves couldn't sleep at night in the beginning because of the cold, and they even complained at this to the guards, who obviously did nothing to it. But one imagines after the tiredness would have got after them after a time. Many prisoners, of course, died. They were unable to stand the cold, the lack of food, and the work conditions which were prevailing on them by their Nazi overseers. The place I'm standing now, which had been for the Lord of the Manor, it had been his front, the front part of his garden, because obviously he didn't want to. There's the village at the back, and he didn't want to come use the tradesman's entrance, which is now the normal entrance. And he had his way down from the road somewhere down here and up to his grand manor. But now the Nazis, what they did, that people they were brought into here. They went to a first floor. Where they undressed, and usually in heated rooms, and then they were down into the cellars and out to a place there where there's a pile of stones, and there the gas wagon stood, which they were forced into the gas van. Gas van drove a few meters off, then the gas was connected to the inside, and the people were suffocated. Then the gas, they discoupled the gassing from the chamber, the inside of the van, and then it drove off into the forest, and the bodies were buried or burnt there. But now, where I'm standing now, this was used by the Nazis. They just, from the first floor window, they just threw everything out down here this part, and then they started trying to sort things out. We know they tried sorting things out, and then they put sort of a tent but the sorting wasn't as organised as it was done in other death camps. And even today, for example, you still see there's lots of things like little buttons and bits of glass and other things which are still lying on the ground here. Just pick this up here. This appears to be sort of a bottle cover full of earth. Just pulled it out of the ground, and a bottle possibly for medicine or something like that. It's hard to say. I don't really know. And one sees lots of that now. Also, the archaeologists, they found lots of things like clothing, pots, pans, and other things, all lying here. Now, what happened was in April 1943, the building was blown up. They decided to stop killing people here, and but a transport arrived. People, they didn't know what to do with these people. They thought they had typhus. They put them on the first floor after it had already been prepared for blowing up, and the building was blown up with the people inside. After the war, this area became an agricultural cooperative, and the ground was actually only acquired for the museum long after the fall of socialism, and this archaeological work started to take place in the 1990s, which has totally bore out the witness Schlamek, his evidence that he gave in early 1942 about the conditions of life in this building for those who were being used for having a temporary stay of execution by the Nazis to destroy the bodies of other Jews, and of course gypsies as well, who were murdered here, and other victims of the Chełmno death camp.